We're going to be talking about this site quite a bit while we're here. In the Bible, this site is Abel Shittim, and just a little bit about that. Shittim is the plural for acacia trees, and so Abel, the stream or the meadow of the acacias, is the name of this site in the Bible, and we'll be talking about that. We're going to also be talking about this site. Everybody agrees that this is Abel Shittim, including the current excavators. Okay, we're going to be talking a little bit about a new idea that this is Sodom as well, and I'm only going to be touching on that just a little bit because I would like to do another one of these where we go down to the sites that are on the south side of the Dead Sea. But the dig that's currently going on is co-directed by two archaeologists. One's name is Steve Collins, whom I don't know very well. The other co-director is a guy named Gary Byers, who's a very dear friend of mine, and we've dug for many years at a place called Makatir. And so I'm going to be talking about Sodom. I don't personally believe this is Sodom, and I'll be giving you some of the reasons for that. But I want you to know that I mean no disrespect at all for the ones who are digging here and that kind of thing. So I'll just give you some of those ideas. First thing I want to just say is today I want to really just deal with the big picture. The way we can understand these archaeological sites, we have to rely on the Bible. If the Bible gives us a clue, we got to take that seriously. If it gives us an understanding that this can't be something, or then we have to take that seriously. If we don't take the Bible seriously, we will just end up in total confusion, and we won't be able to figure out up from down or right from left. Does that make sense? So we got to take our Bible seriously. But even when we take our Bible seriously, we can still end up in left and right field, right? Because we might interpret it wrong, or we might get some things wrong still. And so, unfortunately, in archaeology, a joke that I tend to tell, which is kind of true, is one of the rarest things that you find in archaeology is two archaeologists that agree with each other. So let's think about it in the big picture. By the way, also, these are disputable matters, right? Nobody's not going to go to heaven because they didn't know where Sodom was. And so we should take it at that level as well. It's not personal or anything like that. It shouldn't be that intense. But let's think of the big picture. We're standing on a tell. And the definition really of a tell is that we have one city here on top of another, on top of another. We have a stack of ancient cities that form this ancient mound. And we are standing on a very substantial tell. In other words, just how big it is and how high it rises from the ground shows that this is a big stack of cities. This place was around for a very long time. We have pottery here, and pottery is used for dating by archaeologists. Now, archaeologists tend to put way too much emphasis on the reliability of archaeology to test and say, oh, look at the unreliability of the Bible. Actually, it's the opposite. The Bible is the reliable one, and the archaeology has a lot of unreliability. And we can see this in that archaeologists don't agree with each other, which means there's a lot of problems when you are interpreting evidence. Does that make sense? In other words, the evidence isn't so strong as like DNA science that puts somebody in prison or gets somebody out of prison. It's not like that. It's dependent upon human interpretation of what's been found. And that's why you get disagreement. Now, that doesn't mean it's not exciting and that we shouldn't study it and that we shouldn't be interested in it, or I'm not trying to, but I am saying it's not what you take over the Bible. It doesn't determine for us what the Bible is telling us. It helps us understand, okay? Now, the way that it works is pottery dating, which people will say is, or archaeologists will say that gets you within 50 years of a date. But really, when you look at the disagreement, the scale is more like 300 years. It gets you about within 300 years. Okay, that's better than nothing. And so you have this kind of pottery, which is from the Middle Bronze Age. And you can see the difference even with this. Do you see how there's a difference? You see that black inner core on this piece of pottery. This is from the Iron Age. So in the tell, it would be like this. You'd have to dig down through the Iron Age, which means this represents for the Bible, the kingdom of Israel period. When the kings are ruling over Israel, that's this type of pottery. This Bronze Age pottery that you get down to, then that's when you're talking about Moses and Joshua. And so that's going to be deeper in the tell than this. One thing about this site is look at all the pottery that you see with a black inner core from this Kingdom of Israel period. That means, just from a glance, this was a substantial city in this period. Abel Shittim in the Bible is a substantial city in the Kingdom of Israel period. We'll be talking more about that. But Sodom is not. Sodom is destroyed at the time of Lot, at the time of Abraham. Abraham sees the smoke coming up, and then it's abandoned forever. Okay, and so you shouldn't have the tell rise from the time of its destruction on. Does that make sense? It should be destroyed and lay there forever abandoned. Why? Because in this period, this is the time period of Isaiah and the prophets. Here, let me finish, then I'll take your question. And so the prophets are using Sodom as an example of total destruction and abandonment. And then all the way into the Roman period, where you have Jesus also using Sodom as that same example. So it makes sense then that Sodom would be that example to the population that's being talked to, because it was destroyed and laid in ruins ever since, and people know where it is. Yeah?
So why are some other archaeologists then saying, okay, this could be Sodom, when it's pretty clear that, like, the pottery...
Right. Okay, so that's a good question. I want to emphasize a few things for the day, because we're going to be together all day. I want to emphasize that none of what I'm going to go over with you today is my idea. Okay? If it were, then it wouldn't be very trustworthy. Because if I've thought of something brand new in 2018 that nobody's thought about before, all the explorers that have come through here, all the archaeology that's been done, all the Bible scholars trying to figure it, if nobody thought of the new idea that I have, then my new idea probably is wrong. Does that make sense? The best way to understand things is to look in the big picture. It's not just about one site. It's about how all three of the sites that we're going to go to today fit together, and a bunch of other sites that we're going to talk to, how they all fit together, and how the archaeology from this site, for example, parallels with other sites. If I could pick one site that this site's archaeology parallels with the best, I would definitely pick Jericho. Okay, now I've done a lot of stuff with Jericho. I made a film about that in 2008 on Jericho. If you're interested, you can go to our website and watch that film. And so what tends to happen is archaeologists a lot of times will build their career on one site. They'll spend all their excavations on one site, basically putting all their eggs in one basket. And so over time, that site grows in importance. Does that make sense? And so Abel Shittim all of a sudden becomes Sodom. But if you just think logically, we're talking about in the Bible in these early periods, it's telling us about a site called Abel Shittim, and it's telling about a site called Sodom. Does it make sense to you logically that those two cities would be the same city? It would be like standing at Jericho and saying, oh, this is Jericho, but it's also Jerusalem. It doesn't make sense. Names do change over time, like as you move into the Greek period or into the Roman period. they're given Roman names or Hellenistic names. But in these Old Testament times, the names of sites don't change from one thing to another. And so, and I've seen this again and again and again and again. Oh, this site is this one and this one and this one. It helps, I don't know, maybe it helps to raise support. Maybe it helps to get people excited and motivated to dig. But yeah, so let's continue here. And then we're going to get up to this area up here and really look at it. But as we go